All right, welcome to General Nerdities, a place where we discuss all things in the general nerd culture, from video games, comic books, TV shows, movies, and more. We are your hosts. I'm Jake, and this is Alex, and this week we'll be discussing the dumpster fire that is Cyberpunk 2077. All right, now let's kind of paint a picture, because this game released on December 10th, so we've had a good 18 days, nearly 3 weeks of this game being out. So it released on December 10th of 2020. Actually received really good reviews before its release. IGN gave it a 9 out of 10, and the Metacritic scores, even to this day, are showing it at an 86, which isn't very bad by any means. So it was viewed really well in the public eye. And then once the game released in December 10th, people started doing console reviews, and the console reviews were horrible. They were crashing. IGN gave it on the console a 4 out of 10. Metacritic scores have it at a 53 and a 61 for PS4 and Xbox, respectively. And it was just crashing. It was so bad, in fact, that Sony and Xbox are issuing full refunds, or were issuing full refunds up until December 21st for anybody who wanted it, which Sony doesn't give anybody refunds for anything. So that goes to show you how horrible this was. And just a quick little side note, PS4 removed it completely from their store until it gets fixed, which is actually giving Xbox free exclusivity right now.
For now.
Which is kind of, if you want to play the game on consoles, you got to play it on Xbox. So that's a cool little fun fact right there. But so Cyberpunk came out, or CD Projekt Red came out, announced a plan for patches. They've been putting out like hot fixes, but they don't have a planned patch number 1 until January, and patch number 2 to have the game fully functional until February. So essentially on December 10th, they sold an early beta or early access for a full price game out to the public. And like I said in the intro, it's been a bit of a dumpster fire. However, they're still doing well. After all the refunds were done, because the refunds ended on December 21st, they still sold 13 million copies worldwide of this game. So they're definitely not hurting for money from the sales from this. But still, there's this massive polarizing opinion of what's going on in Cyberpunk. It's essentially, it's kind of split the gaming world and made it between, like, you have it on PC or you have it on consoles. So what are you seeing in all of this, Alex?
So, it's interesting, and I don't want to take away anything from the game. If you have the PC hardware that runs it, apparently it's a phenomenal game, and they deserve all the accolades in the world. CD Projekt Red deserves all the accolades in the world for that. However, we get to a basic point where if you release a game on a console, whether, that console is now approaching 7 years old, do you have a responsibility to make sure that your game runs on that console that you're clearly advertising it for? You have a lot of people in the gaming space, well, those console players should just upgrade to PC, or, this was always meant to be a PC game, and that argument kind of rings hollow, as PS4 and Xbox One are on the cover of the game whenever you buy it. It's available on the PlayStation Store and the Xbox Store. Xbox even had a custom Cyberpunk Xbox console that you could buy, and that console cannot run the game that's sold for it. So, on the one hand, I think it is a tale of two games. One of these is absolutely phenomenal and should, it deserves a lot of the praise that it's getting. But at the same time, you have to hold CD Projekt Red's management to task on releasing an unplayable, buggy mess. Like you said before, Sony giving refunds. Sony doesn't give refunds for any type of game, and the fact that they're willing to not only give refunds but remove it from their store says an awful lot about this. That's 120 plus million consumers that no longer can buy this game. That's not small. So I think we really do have to, talk about what CD Projekt did. Did they really misrepresent what they had on their hands? Did management really know about this kind of stuff? And then, what do we go from here? And then, I still would love to hear, how you feel about the game after having spent a couple hours with it.
Yeah, man. So clearly looking back on it with the, a little bit of hindsight here, it's starting to look. It looks to me that there's been some deceptive marketing practices in the release of this game, right? So rolling into December 10th, a lot of these big name companies and people that got review codes are releasing good reviews. A lot of people are saying really good things. And I was looking at the Metacritic scores. If you look at it on PC, there's literally only, as far as critics go, not user scores, there's literally only one negative review out of, well over 100. I don't remember how many, I'm sorry. So it was clearly, people were having a good time with it. But where it got really deceptive was PC was the only way that the game was able to be reviewed. And so reviewers are getting the review copy, told to only do it on PC. And then what's even worse is that they wouldn't let them use their own footage in their reviews. They made them use footage from all the little Cyberpunk marketing videos. So while all the reviewers were out there saying that that the game was really buggy, they couldn't actually show anybody how buggy it was until the game released. So there were tons of people, like, a ridiculous amount of pre-orders. I want to say like 8 million, I heard, or something.
Yeah,
they
sold. They had something like 8 million pre-orders and sell-throughs within like 24 hours, something like that. It was. I mean, the game was clearly a success. It sold through like crazy. I believe they mentioned that 60% of those first 8 million were on PC, but that means another 40% of those, or around roughly 3 million or so, are on consoles that essentially the game is unplayable, and that's. Even at you can say that's a minority of your player base, but at 3 million people that are getting a game that runs at 15 frames per second, that crashes, that's incredibly buggy for a full price release, is I'm sorry to say that's deceptive at its best, and it's just downright shitty at its worst.
It is, and you can't go releasing a game like that to the general public. It's not okay. It's a broken game, and like I said, at best they released a beta or an early access and sold it as the actual game. And CD Projekt Red has a whole lot of trust from their community, from what they did with The Witcher. They made a great game. They made tons of great DLC. If I remember right, it was free.
A lot of the expansion, a lot of the DLC was free. I think Wine and Blood was like one of the major paid expansions, but no, I mean, they have a great history of being very consumer friendly. Not charging for things where other companies like EA or Ubisoft would. But when it comes down to it, you've also now just shown your hand of they to play devil's advocate. Let's take management's side and say they really didn't know what was going on here. They didn't. To their credit, they've said, hey, we didn't put enough attention towards the last console, the PS4, Xbox One versions of this game. And, if you're going to say that, then you kind of have to either assume, one, they're lying, or two, that's just a complete and utter failure of management. You have development experience on these consoles, again, citing the old Witcher series, Witcher 3, they've released back in 2015. This game's been in development for at least 7-8 years before these consoles came out. So they know the architecture of the systems. They know the capabilities of what these boxes can do. And they still decided to sell a game that does not function on on hardware. And at the end of the day, there's really no excuse for that other than corporate greed. And I'm wondering, will this hurt them in the long run? Does that start to tarnish the trust and credibility they've built up with their gaming audience?
So, first of all, on all that, it wasn't mismanagement. It was clearly a lie. If it was mismanagement, they'd have been dumb enough to release console reviews. They very specifically restricted console reviews, and we see how that's all turned out.
Yeah.
So that, once again, deceptive in its practice right there. Um, another thing I noticed, right? The only way that you could play the game is essentially on a high-end PC, right?
Yeah.
But the consoles are what's broken. Well, if you look at it, officially it's released on PS4 and Xbox One. It has not been officially released on the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X or S. So it isn't even technically a next-gen game yet. It hasn't been optimized for it or whatever. But the only way to actually run it is on
the more powerful
well-functioning
hardware.
PC. So, like, how did this game even touch PS4 or Xbox One? That's insane to me.
It really is. I mean, and I think this is where some of the lawsuits start to pop up of management clearly deceived not only consumers but investors by saying, in January, I believe, CD Projekt Management was quoted as saying, like, hey, the game's pretty much feature complete. We're just needing a little bit of polish, and that's, when we saw some of these delays. But they claimed this was running on current console hardware on PS4 and Xbox One. Clearly it's not. And now I think not only are they having to deal with some consumer pushback, as they should, they rightly deserve, but now their stock price is down almost 50% from where it was on December 2nd through December 8th. It was at $32. Now it's at around $18. And they are, as far as I know, facing two major lawsuits, citing that management either knew something was wrong and misrepresented what they had on their hands. And these are real allegations, and these are real concerns that this company really needs to address and talk about now. They've built their credibility with the gaming public and being very consumer friendly, but this is just a slap in the face to every fan that really followed them. And I'm sorry, they need to answer for this kind of stuff.
Well, CD Projekt Red has shown itself to be consumer friendly before, but they also have a long history of not taking care of their own employees or developers, and they've been slammed for crunch and all that type of stuff before. So, which I was reading one thing about one of the developers questioning management, actually asking them, like, don't you find it ironic that you made a game about corporate manipulation, and that's exactly what you're doing right now?
Yeah, and kudos to that developer, and shout out to all the hardworking developers and artists and programmers that made this game a reality. I throw none of the blame at you, but this squarely belongs at the feet of your managers and your directors. Like, this is their fault.
Right, and CD Projekt Red, the developers at CD Projekt Red, let me make this clear, those guys clearly know how to make a good game.
Absolutely.
Those guys know what they're doing.
No question.
They're getting screwed over by management. Granted, if I were management, I might be a little bit ticked off about an 8-year development time. But the way that they've been advertising, the way that they've been marketing what they've come out with is like, it's not even close to what the product is that actually came out.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know how that forgives it.
Yeah. No, again, to play devil's advocate, I understand managers have investors that they have to. Managers have executives who have investors that they have to, represent and kind of do things for. But at the end of the day, what comes first? It's either your investors or your consumers, your customers. And right now, I think a sizable portion of their customer base, those who play exclusively on console for whatever reason, were really done a disservice. And it sucks that this game, by all accounts on PC, is absolutely phenomenal. But again, it's okay. Well, I'd love to hear your thoughts later on. But as of right now, it really is a tale of two games. You have something that is clearly the favorite child, and one that's the stepchild that's made to live in the basement. Like, it's really, and I think there's no other way to talk about to phrase that.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So I do find it interesting, though, that despite despite all this going on, it's actually liked well. It's got a lot of controversy mired in, and clearly the console gamers are having their issues. But I've even met people on console that are enjoying themselves with it. I was watching the Game Ranks channel, and they did their game of the year announcement, and it was a People's Choice Game of the Year. Excuse me. They went through all their categories, and it was voted on by the people, and they got a decent amount of a following, so it's interesting to see what they got. And Cyberpunk actually won the Best RPG of 2020 award from them, and it was actually the runner-up for Game of the Year award, only behind Hades. So clearly people are enjoying the game. It almost feels to me that the controversy behind the release is really only what's holding it down. The game itself kind of, when functioning, seems to be speaking for itself, and people are enjoying themselves.
Yeah. And, I'm happy that, people are finding joy in this. But, I don't think CD Projekt Red gets a pass because, they have a lot of goodwill. But yeah, no, I would love to hear what you've been thinking of since you've been playing the game for a little bit now.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I was one of the people that pre-ordered the game, and I've been playing it since day one. Immediately when all the issues started kind of coming out day one, I very much recommended to Alex, don't waste his money yet. And so I've been playing it. We've been kind of paying attention to it, but I've put about 30 hours into the game, so I got a decent amount. I am very much enjoying myself playing the game. There are, I wouldn't put it as Game of the Year. I would, I'd say that it's still worse than, say, The Last of Us Part 2, and we could do a whole nother episode on our feelings on Last of Us Part 2, but
that's fair. Yeah,
I
think we will.
Not quite there yet, but I think it has the potential to be. And had they sat back on it a little bit and put out a polished product in 6 months from now, I think it could have been, competitor for next year's Game of the Year. So one thing that it does really, really well are the RPG elements, straight up.
Okay.
The leveling, the skill trees, all that stuff, super in depth. And then going into what are called the Ripper Docs, where they will, they'll give you all the cybernetic implants and stuff like that. Really gives you a lot of creativity in how you customize your character. And it's really fun kind of going through all that, and I haven't looked up to see if there's a level cap yet. I hope not, because I've kind of, if so, I've kind of mismanaged my level. I've kind of run out, and I'm going to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. But I'm starting to try and specify. It's really kind of fun. It's kind of like playing an open world Deus Ex.
Okay.
I was a big fan of Deus Ex, at least Mankind Divided. Human Revolution. Mankind Divided.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good on that. The story and the characters, I'm really digging them. They got really good characters. Pan Judy, they're people that you really want to care about. And the stories that are going on in there, they do a really good job of telling it. The world itself is beautiful. The world design kind of makes sense on itself. It really looks. It's a fun world to be in and drive around and look at. They did a great job. Even the graphics, maybe off of the console, the graphics they look really good. It's a really good looking game. Once again, on full disclosure, I have a high-end gaming PC, or a fairly high-end gaming PC. I play it on ultra settings, and I've been able to enjoy it that way. And I know that not a lot of people can.
Yeah.
Looking at the bad, though, getting past the obvious, it's buggy. It's really buggy. I don't know how many cigarettes or cell phones have just been floating in midair next to people. I was doing a mission the other day where I was talking to one of the characters at a sushi bar, and he in the background there was a vending machine, and there was some guy like preaching, standing in front of the vending machine, facing away from it, preaching. and then two people walked up at the same time to use the vending machine, and they were all like clipping through each other to use the vending machine or stand on the one space, and it was just it kind of pulled me out of the serious story that was going on, and then and just made me look at what's going on in the background there. It was too obvious. It just kind of stuck out. A few of my big gripes. Some people may care, some people may not. The map is severely oversaturated.
I've heard that a lot.
Everywhere you go, there is stuff. There's stuff to do everywhere, and it's not always it's not really meaningful stuff. It's just like, hey, there's some gangs over here. Go kill them and collect their loot. Hey, there's a bigger gang over here. There's a crime going on right here. Go kill them and collect the loot that they have. And it's just not even fetch missions. It's just boring. But the story content that they give you, or even the built side missions, those do a really good job. It's just there's so much stuff going on. Like I truly feel every corner I turn, I'm hearing gunshots. There's another every corner. There's a mission right there, and it's too oversaturated. It doesn't allow me to immerse in the world enough.
So would you say it's like a little bloated?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the world's plenty big, but there's just so much stuff, just all super dense with meaningless content. At least to me. I want to go do some. I don't want to show up, kill these dudes, and then move on. Like, why did I kill these dudes? I want some substance to the mission that I'm doing.
I think that's fair.
So it is what it is. All right, and another thing that really kind of sucks is there's really no choice and consequence, which sucks in in this open world style RPG. It gives you all these choices, but they all lead back to the same outcome essentially. So it's like that Mass Effect ending type thing where it's like it doesn't matter what you do, the same thing's going to happen regardless. Very, very rarely. I can't even actually think of anything where
That's
I made a decision where it was like my next playthrough I can make a different decision and my game will be different. Even the background, your character's background being a nomad, a corpo, or a street kid, they don't really matter. It mattered so little, it kind of blew me away.
Really?
Yeah, I thought I chose to be a corpo. I was like, all right, cool. I want to start from the top. I want to be doing, I want to be corrupt and all that type of stuff. And immediately, legit immediately, kicked me out and sent me on the streets. I was a street kid essentially, immediately.
Okay.
And it was just kind of boring. I'm like, I kind of don't care about being a corpo. And then they give you a lot of in your conversations, right? Based on your perks or based on your background, every once in a while, RPG, you'll have a little, a conversation choice, I said, I had the corpo background, so every once in a while there'll be a corpo thing that picks up, and I can say something, but essentially it's just acknowledging that I have a corpo background, or maybe there's an engineering perk one that I can hit, I could say hey, maybe we can bypass this to accomplish this mission. Right, and more often than not, or I actually haven't seen it affect anything. They'll be like, no, cool that you have engineering, but no thanks. We're gonna do it this way anyway. Or I used my cool perk to try and get a discount at a place, and a dude legitimately told me to fuck off. Oof. I'm like, but I met the perk. I have the perk requirement for this. Why is it even an option? So it's kind of annoying that your perks don't actually influence what's going on, and there's no real influence in the world and what's going on. Kind of feels like going back to Fallout 4, but even in Fallout 4, you still had some chance of influencing the world. Just not you're not nuking Megaton, but. Last couple things kind of come down to, I think this is going to be personal preference for me. The gunplay. You've said it to me a million times that gunplay is hard to nail down.
Yeah.
But it's to me, it's a big point. It's that's a big point of this game is the gunplay, and they made it a point that we're going to do this game in first person.
Yeah.
And like, I'm no FPS, professional. Like, nobody's paying me to go play Overwatch or something like that. But like, I can hold my own first-person shooter. I just finished playing, replaying through Doom 2016.
Yeah.
And I have no issues with that game. But I feel like, when I'm aiming in at somebody, I'm like, to the right of their head, to the left of their head, to the right of their head, to the left of their head, and like it's super oversensitive. And I've looked up. There's some adjustments. I've looked up online that you can do some adjustments to try and fix it, but they've made this long drawn out, like, there's a ton of settings that adjust your aiming in the game, and it's super annoying. And it's kind of hard to figure out. I've been playing with it the whole time, and I still don't feel like I can shoot well. And, I've looked, I didn't see anything, but it's not like a perk thing where eventually I'm going to become better.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't find it. So that kind of sucks. Honestly, the way that the AI, the combat is, they're pretty formidable. I'm playing on hard. Well, there's 4 difficulties. It's the third of the 4. I'm playing on hard, and I die a lot. And it's essentially a cover-based shooter. And honestly, I feel like it'd be a much better game in third person, especially if it's a cover-based shooter. I hope that's something that maybe they decide to patch in at a later time where you can play it in third person.
Judging from the animations I've seen when they do put the camera in third person, I don't know if that's an option. They're super janky. But yeah, no,
Bethesda makes the buggiest of games in the world, and you could still switch from first to third person there. So.
That does bug me, is that it's a first person open world game. Like, customization is such an integral part of the game. It would be cool if I could see myself in more than just a cutscene or two.
Yeah.
And again, that's a personal gripe. I get that they made a creative choice. And then, again, I've played about 20, 30 hours of Witcher 3. CD Projekt Red, I give them many props for their storytelling background, but I think combat has been their weak suit for a while. And you mentioned before, gunplay wasn't super satisfying in this open world RPG, and to an extent, I don't expect it to be. Again, it's an open world RPG, but when you're going to have something like that be the moment-to-moment gameplay, or at least an emphasis on it, there's an expectation that it's going to be good. I, for one, feel CD Projekt Red has always kind of struggled with combat. Their writing and character building and world building, world class, top the heap. When it comes to combat, from the 20 to 30 hours I put into Witcher 3, it was a slog. I didn't enjoy their combat, and I didn't really expect them to wow me on this. I was kind of expecting this portion of the game to underwhelm me, and it seems as though my predictions were correct.
Yeah, and another part of the combat that really kind of bugs me is it might just be me in this instance, because I really like doing stealth builds in games like this.
Yeah.
So when I put a bullet in somebody's head, I expect them to drop. It's kind of a big deal. And the guys, the people that you fight against in this game, they're very bullet spongy. And so it's kind of, if I put 20 bullets in your head to drop you, that's my stealth element is gone.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's no Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
So that's a bit. So the combat it leaves a bit to be desired. I don't know. Maybe I'll eventually level up. Maybe I'll get a higher level gun besides a sniper rifle that can actually drop a guy in one hit. But for now, it is what it is. And the last thing about it that I feel needs a lot of work is the driving.
Really?
I've heard a lot of people say that their vehicles do a lot of swerving and they just feel like they're power sliding the whole time. I actually don't feel that way. But I feel like everything that I drive is a boat. Like it feels like there's no physics acting on my vehicles. And it shows it the most, I would say, when I'm riding a motorcycle. So, for starters, when I'm taking my motorcycle and I'm going super fast and I go to power slide into a turn, the motorcycle should, my wheels should kind of go and I should turn sideways and go into it. Instead, it stays completely erect and turns sideways and goes. Like there's no physics adding on the motorcycle to overturn it. And what's worse, like you remember in Days Gone when they were explaining the way that they built the motorcycle, the engine actually didn't have the capacity to have a motorcycle, so they folded a car onto itself until it was small enough to be a motorcycle. It's kind of how it feels for me in the motorcycle, because like I'll take my motorcycle and sideswipe a semi truck and run that thing off the road. Like and like if I hit it from behind, I'll actually uplift the semi truck and kind of go under it type thing.
Wow.
And like I've hit stuff hard, and it just hits and sticks. Like I don't go flying off of it. It doesn't go up onto the front tire or anything. It just sticks, and it's just kind of like they really wanted driving to be a big part, of this world. It's this massive open world, and you kind of got to get around it somehow. But like, I really wish they'd have put a lot more effort into it. And this is going to be something that nobody's really going to like except for me. I'd almost wish they'd go after like a Final Fantasy 15 route and just make the car drive itself, man. Like it's just kind of.
I get it though. Like if you're going to put something in the game, there's an expectation that it's going to be enjoyable, and if it's not, then kind of either make it enjoyable or take it out. And I think, any open world kind of action-y game is going to draw comparisons to Grand Theft Auto. And Grand Theft Auto 5 released back in, 7 years ago now? 2013?
On the PS3.
On the PS3, and they nailed driving. Granted, they had a lot of experience with getting driving ready because they've been making open world, games like that for a while. But at the same time, like, CD Projekt Red had 7-8 years or more making this game. Nail the driving. If I'm going to be driving from mission, you got to make it enjoyable. It's a game,
Yeah, and speaking of Grand Theft Auto, one thing that they did really well is their GPS when you're driving, right? The little circle GPS. Well, the faster you go, this GPS will actually zoom out in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
In Cyberpunk, it does not do that. So I will
really
be ripping down the highway, and all of a sudden there's my turn right there, and I just blast right by it because I don't have enough time to react to it with what my GPS
That's
is
ridiculous.
And
I'm sorry. That mini-map GPS thing has been a staple in games for 10 plus years. There's no excuse to not have that working in your game that came out in 2020. Now, I'm sorry, that's negligence.
It zooms, like, from you being a pedestrian to getting in the car, it'll zoom out. But it doesn't change based on your speed. And quite honestly, it's not zoomed out far enough. It's just, it's
I'm
annoying.
sorry. That's a little thing. That's amateur hour. You should be able to get that right.
Yeah. It sucks blowing by every turn that I need to make. It almost makes you, almost like, maybe I shouldn't go so fast. Like, come on, man. You shouldn't go fast in a game like this? What are we talking about here?
Come on. Ridiculous.
So, yeah. So that's my, that's pretty much my hot takes on the good and the bad of what's going on. I think personally, like, the world is beautiful. I think they almost would have been better served going. I kind of brought this game up earlier with it, like a Deus Ex route, where they give you like these smaller open worlds where like you can kind of move around it, and you gotta like learn your ways to sneak into it or whatnot. And really more focusing on the gameplay instead of giving you this open world with driving mechanics, which another thing with the driving mechanics. I'm sorry, go back to this. Like, it's one of my biggest pet peeves on this game. It wouldn't hurt it wouldn't bug me so much if they didn't have racing. Like, they're actual races, and the cars drive like crap, and it just, oh man, it just bugs me. I'm gonna get off that horse.
That's fine.
Yeah, just done.
Well, CD Projekt Red has experience with horses, not cars.
I've heard that Roach has his fair share of glitches.
That's fair.
So, overall opinion, if anybody watching this wants my advice on whether or not to buy the game, unless you got a high-end rig, don't touch it. I would, and even if you do, like if you can be patient, wait until it's patched out. Patch 1 and Patch 2 should be completed by February, hopefully. But even then, if you can be even more patient than that, I would say wait for them to do an official release on PS5 and Xbox Series X. Because at that point is when I would expect it to be like officially better. I don't envision them doing another release of this game unless they feel good about how they're putting it out or the state of the game. So I'd kind of wait on that.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. People should vote with their wallet if you're not enjoying what CD Projekt Red pulled. Again, that's nothing against anyone that's enjoying the game right now, but it's in my opinion, it's super shitty, and it's something that I didn't expect from them. From EA and Ubisoft and Activision, you kind of expect that, but from someone who's been so customer friendly over the last 5-10 years, I hold them to a slightly higher standard. Maybe that's on me for holding them to that, but again, I would say vote with your wallet. Wait until this is a feature complete game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this week's episode. Thank you to everyone for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. We'd love to hear your comments in the comment section down below. And also, if you have any topics that you'd like for us to discuss in the future episodes, please leave a comment or reach out to us on Twitter at GNerdities or Instagram at General Nerdities. Thanks.
Bye.